In a world where love is dictated by wealth, titles, and reputation, one secret can destroy everything. Two hearts beat in forbidden rhythm, hidden behind polite smiles and elegant dances. While the society that surrounds them waits to expose their every misstep, tonight, we dive into a scandal that will shake the ton to its very core, a love that should never exist, yet refuses to be silenced. Brace yourself, because nothing in Bridgerton Season 4 is as it seems, and every secret has a price. The ballroom glittered under countless candles, each flame reflecting off crystal chandeliers and polished floors. But all that brilliance could not hide the tension between them. Across the room, he caught her a brief glance, but enough to make the world fall away for a moment. She tried to focus on her dance, her posture, her laugh, but he lingered in her mind like a shadow she could not shake. Rules. Marriages were arranged, whispers were monitored, and scandal was never far. Yet in that instant, rules felt like walls she longed to climb over. Every stolen glance, every accidental brush of the hand, built an invisible thread connecting them. Their first conversation was simple enough. A polite exchange about the weather and recent social events, but the subtext was electric. He laughed at her clever remarks, and she noticed the way his eyes softened when he spoke to her. To the world, it was nothing. To them, it was everything. A spark had been struck in a place where sparks were forbidden. Nights brought secrecy. Letters, hastily written with trembling hands, passed through hidden channels. Each word carefully crafted, each sentiment masked with subtlety, yet brimming with longing. Candles burned late into the night as she read and reread his words, memorizing every line as if memorizing life itself. The risk of discovery loomed, yet the thrill of connection made their hearts race faster than fear ever could. Each note was a rebellion, a tiny victory against the suffocating rules of their world. Even small gestures became monumental, a hand brushing against a shoulder, an intentional meeting near the gardens, or a shared joke that no one else could understand. They were moments that felt infinite in their significance. The ton remained oblivious, engrossed in their own gossip and concerns. Now the pair's secret world grew, fragile yet undeniable. Each encounter was both a pleasure and a danger, for a single misstep could unravel everything. The tension was not only romantic, but also social. She knew that if anyone discovered their feelings, whispers would turn to gasps, and admiration could become disdain. He understood that a misstep could ruin not only his name, but his family's standing. And yet the danger made each secret meeting more intoxicating. In every shadowed corridor, every hidden corner of Bridgerton society, their love whispered louder than the music that filled the ballrooms. Society demanded appearances, smiles, politeness, and unquestioning obedience, but inside, they were rebels. Their hearts defied expectation, craving something the ton could never approve. There was a silent question between them, never spoken aloud. How far would they go to hold on to this feeling, this dangerous, beautiful connection that promised both ecstasy and ruin? As the first section closes, the seed of forbidden love is planted. It is fragile, thrilling, and fraught with risk. Their story has just begun, yet the shadow of scandal already looms nearby, waiting for the moment when society will demand its due. Every glance, every word, every heartbeat moves them closer to an inevitable storm that could either make them stronger together or tear them apart forever. In a world obsessed with appearances, everyone wore a mask, some literal, many more invisible. Behind the glittering gowns and polished manners, hearts beat with secret desires, and none more so than the two at the center of this unfolding scandal. She was a vision of poise and grace, admired for her wit and charm, yet beneath her calm exterior was a storm of longing and defiance. Every smile she gave the ton was measured, every laugh carefully timed, but in private. Her thoughts were consumed by Himtha, one she could never openly claim. He, in contrast, carried the weight of duty and expectation with effortless composure. Known for his manners and intelligence, he was admired by many, yet understood by few. To the ton, he was respectable, dependable, and untouchable. But the truth was different. Beneath the carefully constructed image, his heart belonged to her. And every polite conversation with others was a reminder of how the world would never approve of their union. In his solitude, he traced the memory of her smile, the warmth of her hand in his, and the unspoken promises that no letter or glance could fully capture. Their connection was electric, yet dangerous. Society's rules were never far away. Every whispered word, every fleeting touch had the potential to ignite scandal. Friends and family watched with varying degrees of suspicion, unaware of the growing intensity between them. Even minor interactions like a casual bow or a passing comment carried hidden meanings, messages only they could read. Each encounter became a delicate dance, balancing desire with discretion, longing with restraint. Jealousy and intrigue lurked everywhere. Rivals in the ton noticed subtle shifts in behavior, how she lingered just a moment longer near him, how his gaze followed her across the ballroom. Rumors began to surface, though no one could yet pinpoint the cause. In a world where a single misplaced word could ruin reputations, every glance was a risk. Every shared secret a rebellion against the suffocating rules that dictated their lives. Even their allies remained unaware. Close friends saw only the polite facade, never guessing the depths of passion hidden behind carefully chosen words. Letters passed in secret, meetings stolen beneath the cover of darkness. In brief touches that no one else would see, these small acts became lifelines, connecting them across the dangerous waters of society's expectations. The thrill of these moments was intensified by the constant awareness that exposure could come at any moment. In this delicate web of secrecy, the tension was almost unbearable. Each heartbeat, each glance, each carefully concealed smile fueled their desire, yet reminded them of the dangers. Every day, they walked a tightrope between longing and discretion, passion and ruin. The ton may have been blind to their feelings, but the energy between them was impossible to hide completely. Vibrating through every social encounter, every whispered conversation, every poised bow. By the end of this section, the audience sees clearly who these lovers are, not just their names or faces, but the complexity of their hearts and the stakes they face. They are drawn together irresistibly, yet every moment they share is a defiance of the world around them. The story of forbidden love is no longer a possibility. It has begun delicate, dangerous, and utterly compelling, setting the stage for the scandal that is to come. The first spark of their forbidden love was not loud or grand, it was quiet, subtle, yet impossible to ignore. It began in a glance across the ballroom, a fleeting moment that neither could explain. She felt her pulse quicken as his eyes met hers, and for a heartbeat, the world around them disappeared. It was a private fire in a public space, a thrill that both terrified and exhilarated them. In society's eyes, they were merely acquaintances. Yet in that instant, they were conspirators in a secret world that belonged only to them. Their early encounters were cautious, layered with polite conversation and hidden meaning. Words that sounded ordinary carried secret emotions. Gestures that seemed innocent held profound weight. A shared laugh over a witty remark became an unspoken promise. A hand brushing lightly against another in passing was more electrifying than any dance. Every small moment between them was magnified, every second stretched by the danger that their hearts might betray them. Even their surroundings conspired to make each encounter feel charged. Candlelight flickered against polished floors, casting shadows that seemed to reach toward them, creating a private world within the ballroom. The rustle of gowns, the murmur of polite chatter, the distant strains of music hall became a backdrop to a story that only they could read. In those moments, time seemed suspended, the normal rules of the ton losing all meaning. Their hearts recognized a truth that society refused to acknowledge. They were drawn to one another irresistibly, dangerously. Letters soon followed, delicate and secretive. Each word was carefully chosen, revealing feelings that could never be spoken aloud. They wrote not only to communicate, but to confess, to reveal the depth of a longing that society would never permit. Every folded note hidden in a bouquet, or slipped beneath a door, was a rebellion against the rules that sought to contain them. Reading each letter, they could feel the other's presence, the warmth of a hand they could not hold, the brush of a voice they could not hear. Even simple meetings became loaded with tension. A walk in the gardens, a brief encounter in a shadowed corridor, a glance during a crowded event, each was a test of control, a temptation that neither could resist. The thrill of secrecy heightened every heartbeat, making the ordinary feel extraordinary. Every step they took in public was measured, every word weighed. Yet their emotions threatened to spill over with each passing moment. The danger of discovery loomed like a constant shadow. They were acutely aware that one slip, one careless glance, could ignite gossip that would consume them, yet the risk only made the connection more intoxicating. They were drawn together by a force beyond logic or caution. The thrill of their secret love was undeniable, but every stolen moment came with the shadow of danger. Society's eyes were everywhere, and even the slightest misstep could ignite a scandal that would ruin them both. In Bridgerton's world, nothing stayed hidden for long. Rumors spread faster than gossip at a ball, and whispers could topple reputations as easily as a mislaid fan. With each passing day, the lovers felt the invisible pressure of expectation, the weight of a society that demanded perfection, obedience, and appearances above all. Every glance they shared, every touch they dared, became a silent gamble. She felt it in the subtle shift of a nearby gaze, the way a friend lingered just a moment too long in conversation. He noticed it too, in the hushed whispers that seemed to float on the edges of the ballroom, in the letters he suspected were being read by eyes not meant to see them. The world around them was becoming sharper, more suspicious, as if the ton itself could sense the forbidden fire between them. Jealous rivals began to notice the quiet changes. A certain suitor, eager for her hand, saw the lingering looks and clever smiles, and the seeds of envy were planted. Friends whispered about her odd behavior, the way she seemed distracted, her polite laughter tinged with tension. Even the servants, who often knew more than they should, started to notice small anomalies, left too long. Secret meetings near the gardens, or glances that spoke louder than words. Every shadow, every silence, carried the potential for exposure. Their own nerves heightened the intensity. Every encounter was now a delicate balance between passion and caution. He had to mask the longing in his eyes, she had to temper her smile, and both had to act as if the world was oblivious. Yet the very act of hiding intensified their feelings, making each glance more electric, each moment more precious. They were trapped between desire and danger, and the closer they drew to one another, the higher the stakes became. Secrets once thrilling began to feel heavier. Every letter left under a pillow, every stolen conversation in a dim hallway carried the possibility of discovery. They began to plan their meetings more carefully, using shadows and silence as allies. Even so, the thrill of forbidden love made it impossible to resist each other completely. The tension became a living thing pulsing around them, the silent warning that one mistake could unravel everything they held dear. As they navigated the maze of societal expectations, whispers and jealous eyes, the lovers realized that passion alone would not be enough to protect them. Each step forward was measured, each word carefully weighed, yet even the smallest misstep could lead to ruin. The suspense built like a storm cloud over the ton, a gathering force ready to break. Their love, as intoxicating as it was, now carried the sharp edge of danger, beautiful, fragile, and terrifyingly close to destruction. By the end of this section, the audience feels the tightrope the lovers walk. Desire and risk are entwined, and the possibility of exposure looms with every heartbeat. The spark of forbidden love has grown into a fire, and the storm of societal pressure is approaching fast. Their romance is no longer just a secret, it is a ticking time bomb, poised to explode and leave scandal in its wake. The moment arrived like a sudden storm, silent yet unstoppable. What had been whispered in shadowed corridors and hidden letters could no longer stay buried. A misplaced envelope, a careless glance, a servant's curiosity was enough to ignite a scandal that had been quietly building for months. Suddenly, every secret they had guarded with trembling hearts was exposed to the very world they had tried so desperately to navigate. The ballroom, once a sanctuary of subtle glances and stolen smiles, became the stage for a drama none could ignore. The revelation was not polite, not quiet. Society demanded spectacle. Gasps echoed through the chandeliers, whispers spiraled into gossip, and eyes that had once admired her wit now gleamed with judgment. Every polite nod and graceful bow was replaced by suspicion and accusation. Letters that once conveyed love and hope were brandished as proof of betrayal, each word dissected and twisted. In a single moment, the fragile world they had created for themselves shattered under the weight of public scrutiny. Jealous rivals watched with satisfaction, their own ambitions fed by the misfortune of the lovers. Friends tried to intervene, but even well-meaning allies were powerless against the tidal wave of gossip and judgment. Their private passion, once thrilling in its secrecy, was now a weapon in the hands of those who delighted in scandal. The lovers could no longer hide. Behind subtle glances or coded letters, their emotions, once confined to private moments, were now displayed for all to see. The emotional impact was immediate and raw. She felt the sting of betrayal not from each other, but from the world that refused to understand the purity of their feelings. His heart ached with frustration, anger, and helplessness, knowing that nothing he could say would convince society of their love's authenticity. The tongue was relentless, demanding explanations, opinions, and confessions. Every whispered word became a blade, cutting deeper into the fragile fabric of their reputations. Even small, seemingly trivial details were magnified into damning evidence. A hand left too long on a shoulder, a look that lingered too long, a shared secret overheard. Everything became proof that they had broken the unspoken laws of their world. Their love, once secret and beautiful, was now a scandalous spectacle, a cautionary tale whispered from drawing room to drawing room. The weight of exposure was suffocating, and for the first time they wondered if their love could survive the relentless gaze of society. And yet, in the midst of chaos, a strange clarity emerged. Scandal forced them to confront the depth of their feelings. Would they retreat and surrender to the rules that had always constrained them? Or would they defy the world and fight for a love that was undeniably real? The tension between fear and desire became unbearable, a dramatic crescendo that left every heartbeat echoing with anticipation. By the end of this section, audience experiences the full force of the scandal. The lovers are no longer merely at risk, they are exposed, vulnerable, and under the relentless scrutiny of the tongue. The forbidden love that once danced quietly in shadows has erupted into public turmoil. Their journey is now a test of courage, devotion, and the power of a heart willing to defy society for love. The aftermath of the scandal hit like a relentless storm. The tongue's judgment fell like rain, cold and unforgiving, drenching them in shame and suspicion. Invitations were rescinded, polite smiles vanished, and whispers followed them at every turn. Even those who once admired her cleverness now avoided her gaze. The glow of admiration replaced by cautious distance. He too felt the weight of society pressing down, his once pristine reputation marred by gossip and assumption. Every step outside the drawing room felt like walking through a gauntlet. Each glance from a stranger a reminder that their secret was no longer theirs alone. Private moments, once sacred and thrilling, became impossible. Letters went unread, hands could no longer meet in secret, and stolen glances were replaced by anxious calculation. The world intruded relentlessly, leaving them raw and exposed. Heartbeats that had once quickened with excitement now pounded with fear, uncertainty, and sorrow. Their love, so vibrant and defiant in shadows, now trembled under the harsh light of scrutiny. Even the simplest acts, walking through the gardens, attending a ball, or exchanging polite conversation, were fraught with danger. Every misstep could deepen the scandal and unravel whatever fragments of dignity remained. Within this chaos, internal struggles tore at them. She wrestled with guilt, not for the love she felt, but for the consequences it had brought upon everyone she cared for. Her mind replayed every glance, every word, every letter, wondering which small act had triggered the storm. He faced his own torment, anger at the relentless society that refused to understand. frustration at his inability to protect her, and fear that the love they shared might not survive the suffocating judgment. Each sleepless night became a battle between hope and despair, desire and duty. Relationships beyond the lovers were strained to the breaking point. Families demanded explanations, friends whispered advice, and rivals seized the opportunity to widen the rift. Even those who had supported them privately felt powerless against the tide of public opinion. The scandal became a living thing, consuming more than just their reputations. It threatened the very bond that had drawn them together. And yet, in the depth of despair, the intensity of their connection was undeniable. Their love had been tested, and though battered, still pulsed beneath the weight of shame and scrutiny in the quiet moments. Away from prying eyes, they clung to what remained. Hands brushed, words were whispered, and stolen smiles reminded them that their love, though challenged, was real and unbreakable. The danger and judgment sharpened their emotions, making every fleeting touch more meaningful, every hidden glance more precious. The scandal had taken almost everything, yet it could not destroy the spark that had ignited between them. By the end of this section, audience feels the full emotional gravity of the situation. The lovers are battered but not defeated. Their hearts are tested, their trust shaken, and their courage challenged. The world may have exposed their secrets, but the essence of their forbidden love remains fragile, yet undeniable. The story is no longer. The scandal had erupted, reputations were shattered, and yet the story was far from over. The lovers stood at the edge of a precipice, unsure if the next step would bring salvation or ruin. Every glance around the ballroom, every whisper in the gardens, every shadowed corner held potential danger. They had survived the first wave of exposure, but the ton was relentless, and society's judgment had only just begun to settle. The question now was no longer whether their love existed, but whether it could endure the unyielding forces aligned against them. Rumors continued to spread like wildfire. Each letter uncovered, each glance misinterpreted, fueled the gossip and magnified the stakes. Friends who had once offered support began to hesitate, torn between loyalty and self-preservation. Rivals, seeing opportunity, moved like predators, eager to exploit the lover's vulnerability. Even family members who had once turned a blind eye now pressed for explanations, demanding decorum and obedience, threatening to sever ties if rules were not followed. The lovers realized that their fight was no longer private. It had become a battle for survival in a society that would not forgive or forget. In private, their connection remained a lifeline. In dimly lit hallways and quiet gardens, they clung to one another, savoring stolen moments that reminded them why the risk was worth it. Their hands touched briefly, eyes met with silent understanding, and hearts beat faster with both desire and fear. Every hidden smile became a declaration, every whispered word a promise that their love was too strong to be extinguished, no matter the consequences. Yet even these moments were tinged with anxiety. Discovery lurked around every corner, and the tension was almost unbearable. The storm of scandal had not just affected their public lives, it had changed them. Each had grown sharper, more aware, and more determined. She was a woman willing to fight for her heart. He was no longer merely a gentleman of society. He was a man ready to defy tradition. For what he loved, the forbidden romance had evolved into a test of courage, resilience, and unwavering devotion. They understood now that love alone was not enough. They needed strategy, patience, and unbreakable trust to survive the judgmental eyes of the ton. And then came the moment that would leave the ton gasping and viewers breathless. An unexpected encounter, a mysterious letter, or a public confrontation hinted at, but never fully revealed. The narrative paused, leaving the audience in suspense, hearts racing, minds racing with questions. Would they be torn apart forever? Would society finally bend to their love? Would the scandal consume them entirely, leaving only heartbreak in its wake? The final frames lingered on a symbolic image, a candle flickering in a drafty room, a glove lying abandoned unpolished floors, or a letter held tightly in trembling hands. The story of forbidden love was far from over. It was a storm gathering strength, and only time would reveal whether it would destroy or solidify the bond between two hearts, daring to defy the world. Text on screen leaves viewers hanging. Will love survive the scandal, or will society win? Music fades, leaving silence filled with tension, anticipation, and the promise that Bridgerton Season 4's forbidden love story has only just begun.